Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Kalani Perez's Screencast-O-Matic presentation, a PowerPoint presentation on how food adds to global warming and the things that we as individuals can do about it. So here's our introduction. Global warming is a huge problem that only gets worse as time goes on. The thing is, although non-renewable energy and gas-powered modes of transportation are a big problem, they're needed as of right now to continue our daily lives. Stores are still open, people need to power their homes and businesses, cars are essential in order to get people from point A to point B, especially in places like Merced. We don't have a lot of central public transportation, and taking public transportation is something that people don't really want to do right now. But there is something that we as individuals, sorry about that we can change in order to help our planet, and it starts and begins with what we eat. So here's our problem. Food contributes to about a quarter of the Earth's total greenhouse gas emissions. That's 25% of all human-made emissions come from food. Well, you may be wondering, well, how do I contribute to that? You contribute to that in three ways. With the foods you buy, the amount of food you buy, and the way that we as individuals dispose of that food. Well, what's wrong with what I buy? It all starts with animal products, animal-based products. According to foodsystemprimer.org, livestock, which is known as animals raised for meat, dairy, eggs, and seafood production, according to ourworldanddata.org, livestock production is the largest greenhouse gas contributor, accounting for an estimated 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions from human activities. According to ourworldanddata.com, 31% of food-related emissions come from livestock and fisheries. And here's a graph where you can see just how much it contributes to all of our global emissions. Well, what's wrong with the amount of food that I buy? The thing is that buying more food than you need is costly, and you most likely end up not using as much food as you buy. The problem is this: it's overbuying, where sales on unusual products and promotions that encourage impulse and bulk food purchases at retail stores often lead customers to purchase items that do not fit their regular meal plans and therefore spoil before they can be used. That's from foodprint.org. All these things add up to the way that we dispose of our food. The thing is, up to 40% of all the food bought in America is thrown away, according to the NRDC, which is the Natural Resources Defense Council. Food rots in landfills and creates methane, which is better at trapping heat than CO2 is, and it creates methane at a huge rate, so it is very bad for our environment. Our World in Data says that 6% of all global greenhouse gas emissions come from food loss, the amount of food that we have not eaten. So, what can we do? Well, the answer is simple, really. We need to change. We need to change the things that we buy, and we need to change how much of it you buy, and we need to change all the ways that we dispose of food. So you may be wondering, how do you change? Well, try eating more plant-based meals. Our World in Data says that producing 100 grams of protein from beef emits 25 kilograms of CO2 on average. So eating plant-based is a lot better, as you can see, with all the nuts and peas and tofu creating not very many greenhouse gas emissions and leaving very little of their carbon footprint compared to things like beef and lamb and cheese. Also, according to the Yale program on climate change communication, it says that people are willing to change their eating habits. So it's not impossible. It says that 55% of people are willing to eat plant-based meat products, and 94% of people are very willing or somewhat willing to eat more fruits and vegetables, which is always good. You can also change the amount of food that you buy. The American Heart Association and FDA recommends making a grocery list and sticking to it, as well as buying frozen vegetables to help reduce waste, since you can use frozen vegetables for a longer amount of time and use only as much as you need. There's an awesome website called SaveTheFood.com, which is a great website that shows you how much food you would need specifically to fill everyone's plate, ensure leftovers, and reduce food waste as much as possible. This website is awesome because it counts for small eaters, average eaters, big eaters, the amount of guests. It comes with planning and recipes and tallies in the leftovers. And it helps you show that you don't need to buy as much food in order to feed as many people, therefore reducing your amount of waste. And you can also change the way that you dispose of food. Composting is great, and it's an easy way to throw food scraps away, to get rid of food scraps instead of just throwing them away. It's better for the environment, and you can also use it for fertilizer for plants, which is amazing. You can also learn how long food lasts, and don't just listen to the expiration date. Business Insider says that products such as grains can be eaten up to a year after their expiration date. Things like meat and dairy, obviously you should listen to, but other things are a little bit more flexible. But Kalani, people aren't going to want to change their diets, and plant-based alternatives are gross. Well, according to that Yale study, 94% of people are willing to eat more fruits and vegetables, as I said, and 55% of people are willing to eat plant-based products. That same study also says that 60% of people are willing to try plant-based alternatives if they tasted better, and people are getting very close to getting plant-based products to taste and feel just like meat. It's amazing, actually. But Kalani, what about an emergency? What about the companies that sell bulk foods? I understand with COVID-19 alive and well in America, people are trying to prepare for the future, which means buying foods in bulk. Although it's smart, thinking about how much of that food is going to be eaten should be taken into consideration. Now, that doesn't mean that bulk foods are bad. For the companies like Costco, bulk foods are always going to be good as long as they get eaten, and people will always need Costco. Well, what do I do if I don't compost? Or what do I do with compost if I don't garden? Or what do I do if I don't have the space to compost? Composting is usually done outside. Well, you can donate your compost to community gardens or friends who garden. There are apps and websites where people can come pick up your compost, and you can even share the love and spread it around with all the other plants around your neighborhood. As for what to do if you don't have enough space, there are plenty of indoor composting bins that you can find online. Amazon has a ton, as well as probably eBay, and there are many different companies that are trying to solve the same problem. It's amazing. So, in conclusion, changing what we buy, how much we buy, and how we dispose of food are just some of the ways that we as individuals can do our part in reducing our own carbon footprint. And it only gets better from here. If we start changing the way we buy food, companies will listen to that. That's the number one rule of economics is